What happens when a woman realizes she no longer has your full attention? Most men think she'll just move on without a second thought, but that's not always true, and that belief keeps a lot of men stuck. Chasing women who were already paying attention to their reactions the whole time. Welcome back to the channel, fellas. Today we're breaking down a powerful truth that most men overlook. A woman doesn't react when you leave, she reacts when your focus shifts, and when she feels that shift, it hits her in a very personal way. This isn't about tricking women, it's not about acting cold to get a reaction. This is about what naturally happens when a man stops centering a woman in his life, not because he's bitter or angry, but because he's finally re-entering himself that shift in energy. She feels it even if you don't say a word. Attention is never just attention to a woman, it's a signal of where she stands. So when you no longer text, as quickly chase her approval, or make her the center of your emotional world, she notices, and that's when the internal dialogue begins. Why is he different? Who has his attention? Now, did I lose something valuable? This video is going to walk you through 7 distinct ways a woman might respond when she realizes she's no longer the priority in your world, not because you're punishing her, but because you've started focusing on your life, your mission, and your peace. If you've ever felt like you gave too much, only to be taken for granted, this is for you, because sometimes the moment you stop giving everything is the moment she starts seeing you differently. Let's break this down, one layer at a time, one she tries to get it back without asking. The moment a woman realizes your attention has shifted, her instincts kick in, but instead of directly addressing it, most women will try to regain your focus in quiet, indirect ways. This isn't because they're being manipulative, it's because openly asking for your attention would expose a vulnerability they're not ready to admit. Women are incredibly tuned into emotional changes. They notice when you're not texting as much, when your tone is different, or when you seem more focused on your own life. That subtle distance, it creates a feeling of loss. And instead of saying, "I miss your attention," she'll try to pull it back in more passive ways. She might start posting more revealing or perfectly curated photos online, not for strangers, but for you. She wants to see if you'll notice, if you'll react, if you still care. These small actions are her way of fishing for the attention she used to have without making herself too emotionally vulnerable. She might bring up shared memories, things like, "Remember when we used to stay up talking all night?" Or sending an old inside joke out of nowhere. These are not coincidences. She's hoping to spark a feeling in you, to reignite the emotional energy you used to give her without directly admitting she misses it. Even confident women, when they sense your attention slipping away, will start doing more just to feel like they still matter. The problem is, most men miss the signal. They think she's just being friendly or casual. But these behaviors are rarely random. They're quiet attempts to pull your focus back. Let's say you've stopped texting her good morning like you used to. You're not quick to respond anymore. Instead of calling you out, she sends a wrong person text, or randomly checks in with a simple, "Hey, hope you're good." That's not an accident. That's a test, a probe. She's measuring whether or not she still has emotional influence over you. And because she won't say it directly, it gives her an easy way out. If you don't respond, she'll pretend it meant nothing. But if you do, she knows she still has a piece of your attention. The key is recognizing that when a woman starts doing more than she used to, more effort, more posting, more reaching out, it usually means she's felt a shift. And instead of asking for your attention, she's trying to earn it back quietly. 2, she gets angry that you changed. Here's the truth. That'll surprise most men. Women don't just get angry when you treat them badly. They get angry when you stop treating them like a priority, not because they hate you, not because you did anything wrong, but because deep down they never expected you to shift. First, in her mind, she had the power to decide how close or distant things would go. She thought she controlled the emotional flow. That's why when you were fully invested, chasing, texting, always available, it felt normal to her. That was your role. The guy who gave, waited, hoped she could relax. Knowing she had you locked in emotionally, but when you stop giving that kind of energy, when your tone becomes more calm, when your focus shifts to your life, your goals and your peace, it creates an emotional disruption she didn't prepare for. And that disruption, it often comes out as irritation, sarcasm, cold behavior, or unexplained distance. She might not be able to admit it to herself, but part of her is mad that you had the nerve to change without her permission. You didn't ask, you didn't announce it, you just evolved, you stopped reaching, you stopped needing her attention to feel valuable, and that shakes up the entire dynamic. What you need to understand is this: she was comfortable when you were the emotionally available one. She had option space control, but now that you've stepped back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, it flips the emotional script. Now she feels exposed, vulnerable, unsure. That's why her response can be so confusing. She might act cold or passive-aggressive. She might question your intentions or act like you're suddenly the bad guy. It's not always about logic, it's about emotional power. And the moment you took yours back, the balance shifted. Most men crumble at this stage. They misinterpret her anger as a sign they've done something wrong, so they go back to chasing, explaining, or apologizing just to bring peace back. But all that does is restore the old power dynamic she secretly loved, even if she didn't respect it. If you want the truth, her anger isn't really about you pulling back. It's about you breaking the unspoken agreement that you would always be the one who cared more, the one who stayed emotionally invested, no matter how she treated you. That's why her frustration isn't a red flag. It's a reaction, a very human one. But how you respond to it will define the direction from here, because the man who holds his ground stays calm and continues leveling up. That man becomes someone she can't ignore anymore. 3, she starts watching you when a woman senses that she's no longer the center of your attention. Something changes in how she observes you. Even if she's acting cool on the surface, deep down, she's watching everything. Your energy, your responses, your habits. She's tracking it all. Even if she pretends she's not paying attention, you might think she's moved on or lost interest. But that's usually not the case. In fact, the moment your attention fades, her curiosity spikes. Why? Because people, men and women, tend to want what they no longer feel in control of. And once you stop feeding her the same emotional access you used to give freely, she becomes hyper-aware of the shift. She starts looking for signs, not always consciously, but it's happening. She starts watching for who you're spending time with, how often you're online, whether your tone has changed, whether you seem happier, more focused, more distant. She wants to know if you're really letting go or just pulling back temporarily. And this isn't about love or even missing you. It's about something deeper: validation. When she had your attention, it gave her reassurance. It told her that she was still wanted, still desired, still in control. But once that energy disappears, her sense of security takes a hit. And what does any human being do when they feel insecure? They monitor. This is where a lot of men make a mistake. They see her watching and assume it means she wants them back. So they get excited, re-engage, and give her exactly what she was missing. But here's the hard truth: just because she's watching doesn't mean she's ready to invest. Sometimes she just wants to know that she still has an effect on you. You need to be aware of that dynamic. She's observing your reactions now more than ever, especially if you're doing better, moving differently, or simply not reacting to her the same way you used to. She might never say a word, but she's taking mental notes on everything, especially if you've started leveling up or focusing on your purpose. This is why emotional discipline matters, because when she sees you thriving without her attention, without trying to prove anything, without chasing, that triggers something powerful. She doesn't know where she stands anymore, and that uncertainty makes her tune in even more. It's not always obvious. She's not going to clap for your progress or congratulate your growth. But make no mistake, if you were once giving her consistent attention and now you're not, she notices, she feels it. And whether she admits it or not, she starts watching, wondering, questioning. When a man shifts his focus inward, he becomes unpredictable. And that unpredictability grabs her attention in a way your constant availability never could. 4, she pretends not to care at all. One of the most confusing reactions a man can face is when a woman acts like she couldn't care less that you've pulled away. No emotion, no questions, no signs of discomfort, just complete indifference. Or at least that's what it looks like on the surface. But let's be real. When someone who used to enjoy your attention suddenly pretends it doesn't matter, that's not detachment, it's defense. It's her way of staying in control of the story, because if she shows that she cares, it means admitting something's changed, and that's not a position most people want to be in, especially if they didn't expect you to be the one who changed first. So instead, she shifts into pride mode. She stays silent, acts unaffected. She'll convince herself and try to convince you that she's trying not to show she's affected, because showing that would make her vulnerable. And vulnerability for many women, especially in dating dynamics, feels like weakness. There's also pride involved. She wants to be the one who appears to care less. That's how she protects her image, her ego, her control. If she can act like you don't matter anymore, she believes she still holds some sort of upper hand, even if it's just emotional positioning. But here's what makes this dynamic powerful for you when a woman has to pretend not to care. It's already a reaction. It means she noticed. It means your shift registered. It means you did something different and it affected her, even if she won't admit it. The worst thing you can do here is break your frame. Don't chase silence. Don't try to force a reaction, because often behind that "I don't care" front, there's confusion, reflection, and a growing awareness that something valuable slipped away. Hold your line, let her have her performance, because the real truth isn't in what she shows, it's in what she suddenly stops receiving and how she quietly struggles to replace it. 5. She compares herself to other women. When a woman realizes she no longer has your full attention, something subtle starts happening in her mind. She begins comparing herself to the women she thinks you might be giving it to now, and this isn't always something she does consciously. It's more like a quiet discomfort that creeps in the moment she senses that your eyes and energy are no longer on her. She might act confident, she might act like she doesn't care, but internally the comparison game begins. Why does this happen? Because your attention, especially when you used to give it freely, was a form of reassurance. It told her, I'm the one he's focused on. But the second that changes her mind, starts asking, who does he think is better than me? What does she have that I don't? What changed? This is where insecurity shows up in subtle ways. Maybe she starts watching who you follow. Maybe she starts checking out the kind of women you're engaging with or spending time around. But it's not really about them. It's about her. It's about her needing to figure out whether she's still the one in your world. This comparison doesn't just happen with women you're currently talking to either. Sometimes she even starts comparing herself to your past, wondering if she measured up, wondering if you're now gravitating towards something better. And when those thoughts hit, it can shake her self-image, especially if she was used to being the center of your focus. Let's say you've recently started spending more time at the gym, working on your goals, dressing better, and surrounding yourself with high V-value women, but you're no longer checking for her like before. She might act like she's unbothered, but behind the scenes, she's noticing everything, and at some point she'll start wondering, am I still his type, or would he even choose me now? This mental shift hits her pride, because deep down every woman wants to feel like she's still the standard, the one you'd pick again if you had the chance. But when your energy no longer flows her way, that illusion starts to crack, and the more she sees you evolve or connect with women who seem to match your new level, the more she questions where she fits in. Now, does she always admit this? No, most of the time she'll cover it up with pride or indifference. But if she's watching you from a distance while comparing herself to other women, then your attention clearly mattered more than she let on. And that's the key. A woman comparing herself is rarely about jealousy. It's about trying to measure her value in your world. Now that she's no longer sure she holds the same place in it. 6. She tries to test if you'll chase again when a woman feels like she's lost your attention. One of the first things she'll want to know is, this is he really done, or is he just waiting for me to react? And the way she finds out, she starts testing you, but not in obvious ways. These tests are quiet, emotional, strategic. It's her way of finding out if she still has the pull she used to have without putting herself in a vulnerable position. She may not even know she's doing it, but deep down she wants confirmation that you'll still respond the way you once did, that even though you've pulled back, you're still reachable, still available, still open to chasing her again if she gives the slightest sign. That's why she won't just walk away. She wants to see what happens if she gives you just enough to react, not too much, not too little, just enough to check if your attention is still there in the background waiting to be reactivated. She's not doing this to hurt you. She's doing it to test her own significance, because when your attention was consistent, it gave her a certain level of emotional security, and now that it's gone, she's looking for proof that she didn't actually lose anything, that she can still snap her fingers and bring it back if she wants to. This is where most men get caught slipping. They see a little breadcrumb, a random message, a subtle flirtation, and immediately jump back in, respond fast, start engaging, start investing again. And in doing that, they unknowingly confirm what she was hoping, that even though you pulled away, you were never really gone. But if you want to grow as a man, you need to recognize these tests for what they are. They're not real invitations to reconnect. They're not signs of genuine interest. They're emotional check-ins designed to see if she still holds space in your mind. And here's what's crazy. Sometimes all she wants is to know that you'd still chase. She doesn't actually want you, just the validation that she could still get a reaction if she needed one. That's how some women protect their ego when they start losing emotional influence. This is why emotional control is so important. It's not about being cold or calculated. It's about knowing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. When a woman starts testing you, it's not always because she wants to rebuild something. It's often because she wants to measure what's left when you no longer take the bait, when you stay focused on your own path, when you respond with strength instead of emotion. That's when she realizes the old version of you is gone, and no test, no hint, no subtle gesture is enough to bring him back 7. She questions her own value quietly. This is the part most men never see, because it happens silently, behind the confidence, behind the pride, behind the mask. When a woman realizes she no longer holds your attention and nothing she's doing is pulling it back, she starts looking inward, not out loud, not publicly, but in private. She starts questioning her own value. At first, it's denial, then it becomes reflection. Why isn't he chasing me anymore? What changed? Am I not enough? And even if she never says it, these thoughts come up, because attention is one of the biggest affirmations a woman receives in a connection. And when yours disappears, it creates a space that no amount of distractions can immediately fill. But here's where you need to listen closely, because this is where a lot of men mess everything up. Instead of standing firm, holding the line, and letting her sit with those questions, most men jump back in the moment. They sense she's starting to feel something. They interpret that quiet shift in her energy as a window to fix things, win her back, or soften the blow. And in doing that, they interrupt the most important part of the process, the part where she finally starts reflecting on how she treated you. You have to stop rescuing her from her own self-awareness. You spent all that time giving her your focus, your energy, your consistency, and when it wasn't appreciated, you pulled back. That was the moment she was supposed to feel the difference. But if you rush back the second she starts feeling it, you've just taught her that she doesn't actually have to change. You'll always be there, no matter how she acted. And that's the trap too many men fall into. You want to be liked. You want peace. You want things to feel good again, but here's the wake-up call. You can't grow as a man by trying to stay emotionally available to someone who only values you when you're gone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Let her sit with the silence. Let her wrestle with the fact that she's no longer the center of your emotional world, that she lost access to something she didn't value when she had it. It's not about revenge. It's not about ego. It's about finally realizing that your attention is not free, and it should never be given to someone who only wakes up to your worth once you've stopped handing it to them. So if she starts questioning herself, let her. She needs that moment, and you need to stop interrupting it. So now you've seen it, the quiet storm that brews inside a woman when she realizes your attention is no longer hers. Not because you ghosted, not because you disrespected her, but because you finally chose yourself. This isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity. As men, we've been taught to chase, to overgive, to keep proving ourselves, even when it's not being received with appreciation. But there comes a point when you wake up and say, enough. Here's the controversial truth. Most people won't say, a woman only starts reflecting on what she had with you the moment she no longer believes she can get it back. Let that sink in, not when you argue, not when you explain, but when she feels the emotional doors close. That's when reality sets in. So, to every man watching this, if you've been in that space, if you pulled back and saw a shift in her behavior, drop a comment below. I want to hear what happened, what you noticed, how you handled it. I read every comment, and I'll be jumping in to reply and build with you. This isn't just content, this is a conversation between men who are waking up, standing up, and taking their power back. You're not alone in this. And if nobody's ever told you before, your energy is valuable, use it wisely.